and welcome to our last segments for Biology 190. The last segments that we're on are about the human body, and this is one where students really do the best because it's kind of reminiscent of things you might get in Health 200, okay? We don't cover all the body systems, there are like maybe 9 body systems, and we don't cover all of them. So today we're going to talk about cardiovascular, respiratory, and urinary system, okay? Renal. So if you were in lab, okay, you would work for a real piggy. This is one that's just in, preservative, but in the lab they have them out and you work and cut on them. So if you're taking lab, you'll be working with the virtual pig, which you can move parts and do that. So that's pretty cool. So, all the parts are there. Pig is like us, okay? See, pig is like us. So I'll move the pig here. Also, what I would like to talk about, but it's not included, is most intriguing, is the brain. It's like the next frontier of finding out why we do what we do and why you do what you do, why you make the decisions you make. And sometimes you make a bad decision and you really can't help it based on neuroscience because of just how your brain is developing. As it turns out, the higher thought is in the frontal part of the brain. So in humans, something I ran across a couple of years ago, and more is coming out, is that your brain matures from the back, the occipital lobe to the frontal. And it's up here where you're able to have good judgment and make good decisions. So that's really an intriguing area of study, you see? So I'm going to put the brain down. I'd like to do that. And the area that you would deal with the brain is neuroscience, okay? So today we're going to do cardiovascular, as I said, is the first one. And cardiovascular is this guy right here. Now I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because you have your book. Here's the iPod right here, and you can put in Google, you can put in animations, and you can see anything that you want to see, okay? So I suggest that you use your devices to look at animation, simulations, and models and lectures. But here it is right here. So these are the pipes in us, gang. And what they do is they move all of our stuff around. As I said when I did the cell, what you have to do with the cell 24/7 is get the bad stuff out, and you have to get the good stuff in, okay? So our cells, we're not in ponds, and all cells aren't immediately available, to an environment where they can do this. So therefore, we have evolved as it is a cardiovascular system. It's a series of pipes, your blood vessels. Blue will be veins, red are arteries, and then there's an interchange that you don't see called capillaries that are very important. So a go-between that is so small you can't see is the go-between the red and the blue, okay? But notice it delivers to everywhere in the body, and that's pretty good. And what drives it is the heart. So this is why you talk in terms of cardiovascular. Cardio deals with heart, and vascular deals with the vessels, and it's a circuit. It starts in one area, the heart pumps out, goes through the red, gets to the capillaries, not shown in this, and then gathers again in the blue and returns back to the heart, and it does it over and over and over and over and over, and it keeps you going. So what happens is that as the pipes start to go bad in one area, often that can be indicative of problems in other areas, okay? So this is how you can look at blood vessels in the brain or in the eye, and if they look like something's not right, it could tell you that some other things are going on, okay? Now here's some special structures, kidneys, there's your liver, spleens over there, and blood vessel goes to that, you see? So it's organized in a pretty logical way. Now why I wanted to do cardiovascular first is that's a major killer, especially of African Americans and other minorities, but African Americans, it's a real big killer. Problems with the blood vessels, basically what happens is they'll get clogged from things that you eat, and they'll get hard, okay? And when they do that, they prevent flow going through the vessels, and it creates a pressure, okay? So it's like if you have a garden hose that's this big and you turn the water on, it runs pretty good. Let me just turn this phone off, sorry. And if they get this big, it's smaller, then that's really bad, okay? So the blood vessel health is very important. You want them to be nice and pliable and open. And then the heart's important because it's pumping all the time. And you don't want the heart to be pumping, excessively hard, you see. So here it is right here. Now let's look at this model. And I'm going to take this off. Oops, nearly fell. And I'm going to take the lungs off. And you can see where the heart is. There's the lungs, and the heart's like under the lungs. It's in the middle of the chest in the area called the mediastinum. Okay, bounded by the breastbone, the lungs laterally, and your vertebral column in the back. And it's a special area where the esophagus goes through, and great vessels. And here's the heart. Excuse me. And there it is. And notice these little vessels right here. Even though the blood pumps all that blood, it can't utilize the blood that's inside of it. It has to have its own special circulation called coronary circulation. So you hear about coronary vessels. A person had a coronary bypass because the blood vessels here get blocked, and what you can do is take a blood vessel out of the leg and just, go around it like in traffic. Traffic gets stuck, you get off on the side street and go around. I'm going to take this off, and when you look at the heart, as you'll see, it has chambers, those that beat, that pump, the ventricles, and those that receive blood, the atria. And in this model, it shows some white here, and that white represents valves, because just like some streets go one way, they don't want you to go back. Blood flow through the heart should be one way, it shouldn't go back. When it goes back, then you end up with anomalies. Now, everybody's been to the doctor, and they'll take a stethoscope and put it on your chest and listen, and what they're listening to is how the blood sounds when it's going through the heart. So when everything is functioning properly, it sounds one way, like a fine-tuned car, okay? And then when something's wrong, you can hear knocks and gurgles, and you know something's up. Could be a valve problem or whatever. Now, a major thing is blood from the lungs, excuse me, comes to the heart. So if you have a problem with the lungs, it can create a back pressure, create a problem with the heart. So problems with the heart can create problems with the lungs. Problems with the lungs can create problems with the heart. And the whole purpose is to move all this stuff around. And one important ingredient, as you know, is oxygen, okay, that you get from your lungs. So if you have asthma or some problem, then you don't get enough oxygen. The heart tries to work harder, and the whole thing just falls apart after a while, okay? And there's the brain again showing blood vessels. Let me take this brain out. And the brain has a lot of alternative ways that blood can circulate. Whenever blood gets blocked in the brain and a certain portion of brain tissue can't get it, you have what's called a stroke. A stroke is an insufficiency delivery of blood to a portion of the brain. It could be due to a blockage. It could be due to a clot. Something, a clot, like you get a clot when you cut yourself, or it could be due to an aneurysm where a blood vessel will bulge out and burst, okay? So that could happen anywhere where a blood vessel could become blocked, it could burst, or it could become stenotic, meaning kind of closed in for a variety of reasons, okay? So, and here, notice you have these vessels, the carotids. This is why if somebody puts their hands on you and chokes you, you will pass out, you see, because you stop blood going to the brain. So a major portion of your blood is going to the brain because your brain, is there. So when you don't get much oxygen for a variety of reasons, you feel woozy, and like you say, like, it can be really bad. So read up on cardiovascular. It's a real killer. Smoking, all kinds of things are inhibited. Don't you want to keep your system functioning as good as you can? Yeah, so if you're a typical college student, or if you're not, what's a typical college student? But if you come into a building and something's on the second or third floor, you should be able to bounce up the steps. You may be a little fatigued, but in about 30 seconds to a minute, you should recover and you should be okay. So if you find yourself at the mall trying to go, to your car, or go up steps and you're winded, that should be a flag to say, hey, something's wrong with maybe my cardiovascular or my respiratory system, because you want it to function, you should recover quickly. So that's all I'm going to do. Remember, go to the internet and look at animations and simulations of blood flow through the heart and through the body, and cardiovascular is awesome, okay? And that's it for this segment.